So, does anyone care to touch on this further?
My name is Jerry. I left MAGA and I'm here to spill all the tea. Even if it means I've got to spill a cup of tea that I didn't even know I had made yet. I have not been responding to very many of the current event situations going on, but I do want to address this thing that happened today. Um, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban hold press briefing in Budapest. And I thought, well, I'll take what is it, 7 minutes to listen to this? Yeah, about 7 minutes. And I was like, I had a reaction. So we got to address this, and I'm going to insert some background information into what's going on here. So in the meantime, and I'm probably going to have to work some magic in post to make the reporters' questions, the press questions, a little more audible. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, let's jump right into this.
More possible that might happen. Thank you. Thank you. And the last question is for Reuters.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Good to see you, Mr. Prime Minister. I just two questions, Mr. Secretary. Iran is pursuing a nuclear agreement with the U.S. that it says would deliver economic benefits for both sides. Is that acceptable for the U.S., even if it doesn't cover Tehran's ballistic missile program? Recently, a U.S. immigration judge has ruled that there were no grounds to deport Tufts University student who wrote an op-ed on Gaza. A second judge said using deportation as a threat violated the First Amendment rights of people like her, because those rights apply to foreigners. What is your response to that?
All right, before he gets into that, let's go on over here and see what the First Amendment says. Congress, it has nothing to do with the State Department. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. All right, so now that we have the First Amendment clear, oh, yeah, I was going to go ahead and take a look at the Fifth Amendment. I guess I got another tab lined up here in a moment to give Mr. Rubio another civics lesson. Anyway, the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. to the U.S. Constitution states the right of the people to secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. All right, so we've got the First and the Fourth Amendments perfectly clarified. I got another point I'm going to bring to him, but let's get back to Mr. Rubio's answer to this question.
And Mr. Prime Minister, I just wanted to follow up on the China angle. Secretary just spoke about balancing relationships. You've been pushing a lot for more Chinese investments in Hungary. How will you make sure that that does not create a problem in your relationship with Washington? Thank you.
Yeah, on the two questions you asked, first of all, on the particular case of the student, look, my job at the State Department is if I identify someone who I believe is present, someone who's a visitor, a guest to the United States, and we identify that their presence in our country poses a threat to our foreign policy, to our national security, we're gonna take the person's visa away. We're gonna take their visa away. That's what we're gonna do. We've done that.
Okay, so yeah, I would agree with that if they're planning on causing some sort of grievous bodily harm to a group of individuals. Just saying. But I don't think that's what he's trying to say. I really don't think that's what he's trying to say. I think what he's trying to say is if you'll just sit down and shut up, it'll be all right. Well, you know what? I've read the poem. I'm sure a lot of us have read that poem. You know, at first they came for, and I said nothing.
In a lot of cases over the last year, we've done it. Fact is that, visas are not a right. I've said this repeatedly. I don't know why it's so hard for some to comprehend it, so let me repeat it again. A visa, no one's entitled to a visa. There is no constitutional right to a visa. Okay, a visa is a permission to enter our country as a visitor. If you enter our country as a visitor, and as a visitor in our country, be it a student, a tourist, a journalist, whatever you want to be, and you undertake activities that are against the national interest, the national security of the United States, we will take away your visa. In fact, if we need.
Okay, so by his logic, we shouldn't be going over there to the Sudan or down to Cuba or over to Haiti and be messing around now, should we? Should we? Oh, good grief. These people don't think things to their logical conclusions, but it's because of the ideology within the church structure that they grew up in. Mind Shift did a video on it. I'll see if I can remember to drop a link. But in the evangelical movement, we were not allowed to ask questions, and we weren't allowed to follow things through out to their logical conclusion, and that's why we see, and what is it today? February 16th. Yeah, February 16th, 2026. We're seeing Trump supporters that are walking up on these Epstein files, and they're seeing all this evidence, and yet they're not accepting it. Anyway, back to speaking out of, yeah. If I'm a guest at somebody else's house and some things start going sideways, I'm going to be inclined to want to say something, and then I may leave. But I mean, or if they ask me to leave, I'll go. But Mr. Rubio, come on now. Your parents immigrated from Cuba, which anyway, moving on.
Knew you were going to do it, we probably wouldn't have given you your visa. That's what we do. The decision to remove someone from our country after we take away our visa, that belongs to other agencies of our government. As far as judges are concerned, judges, that's a different branch of government. They're not going to tell us how to conduct the foreign policy of the United States.
Whoa. Okay, so right there it is. There it is. Checks and balances. This is coming from Ben's Guide, cheap at the governmental publishing office.gov. All the links will be down below. Checks and balances. The Constitution divided the government into three branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. I shouldn't have to be doing this. That was an important decision because it gave specific powers to each branch and set up something called checks and balances. Just like the phrase sounds, the point of checks and balances was to make sure that no one branch would be able to control too much power. And it created a separation of powers and here are some examples of how the different branches work together. The legislative branch makes laws, but the president and the executive branch can veto those laws with a presidential veto. The legislative branch makes laws, but the judicial branch can declare those laws unconstitutional. The executive branch, through the federal agencies, has the responsibility for day-to-day enforcement and administration of federal laws. These federal departments and agencies have missions and responsibilities that vary widely from environmental protection to protecting the nation's borders. The president and the executive branch can veto a law, but the legislative branch can override that veto with enough votes. The legislative branch has the power to approve presidential nominations, control the budget, and can impeach the president and remove him or her from office. The executive branch can declare executive orders, which are like proclamations that carry the force of law, but the judicial branch can declare those acts unconstitutional. The judicial branch interprets laws, but the president nominates Supreme Court justices, Court of Appeals judges, and district court judges who make the evaluations. The judicial branch interprets laws, but the Senate in the legislative branch confirms the president's nominations for judicial positions, and Congress can impeach any of those judges and remove them from office. All right, so let's go back to Mr. Rubio and Mr. Orban.
If they have an issue with the process by which someone was removed, then obviously that's an issue for other agencies in our government that are involved in enforcing that. All I can opine to you on is
So there he's talking about ICE, I suppose, and Department of Homeland Security. There's no cooperation between these departments. And in some of the departments, there's no communication. That's why it's such a fluster.
is taking away someone's visas, and no judge is going to tell the executive branch how to conduct foreign policy, because that's not up to judges, that's up to the executive branch. On your first question about Iran, look, doing a deal with Iran is not easy.
Again, hold on. Yeah, so it's coming from PBS NewsHour, and this article is datelined October 12th, 2023, but I already had the information before they dropped this article. And first, CIA acknowledges 1953 coup is backed to overthrow leader of Iran was undemocratic. So, yeah, while revealing new details about one of the most famed CIA operations of the times, the spiriting out of 6 American diplomats who escaped the 1979 U.S. Embassy seizure in Iran, the intelligence agency uh, for the first time has acknowledged something else. The CIA now officially described the 1953 coup it backed in Iran that overthrew its prime minister and cemented the rule of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi as undemocratic. And the article goes on, but I wanted to hit this point right here because Mr. Rubio was saying that they're a difficult country to get along with, and yeah, I'm fidgety. I'm agitated. I'm agitated because we're getting back to one of my passions here. All right, so let me see if I can find my cursor. There it is. So let's go back to Mr. Rubio.
I said it yesterday, I'll repeat it again today. I mean, we have to understand that Iran ultimately is governed, and its decisions are governed by Shia clerics, radical Shia clerics, okay? These people make policy decisions on the basis of pure theology.
I wish I had brought a Joel Webbon clip to insert here. I did a Joel Webbon video. You can search my channel, but Joel Webbon is the American Taliban. He's a hardline Trump supporter, Christian nationalist who wants a theocracy, which is the kind of thing that Rubio is describing here in Iran. It's a theocracy, uh, as are many of the Muslim states, but or Muslim, I'm not sure. What I used to be MAGA. I'm still. I, anyway, moving on.
That's how they make their decisions. So it's hard to do a deal with Iran. We've always said it's hard, but we're going to try. That's what the president is trying. I'm not going to prejudge those talks. I'm certainly not going to negotiate with Iran here in front of the press and on the stage. Our negotiators are on their way there now. They'll have meetings. We'll see what happens. We're hopeful there's a deal. The president always prefers peaceful outcomes and negotiated outcomes to things. He's a president that's shown his willingness to talk to anyone and meet with anyone.
Yeah, but he doesn't do anything after he has those conversations, does he? Unless they support Putin's agenda. Oh my goodness. And again, I've got to ask, how many of those negotiators worked for the company? All right, I don't know. I don't know who's on the negotiating team. I, and I don't want to take the time to figure it out because I've got other fish to fry. More on that. More videos coming up real soon. But hang on.
And I think if there's an opportunity here to diplomatically reach an agreement that addresses the things we're concerned about, we would be very open and welcoming to that. But I don't want to overstate it either. It's going to be hard. I mean, we're dealing, it's been very difficult for anyone to do real deals with Iran because we're dealing with radical Shia clerics who are making theological decisions, not geopolitical ones. But let's see what happens. I hope it works.
Oh, is it as complicated, Mr. Rubio, as gutting the office in your department that that combats human trafficking on an international level. Are we seeing a pattern here, people? Check out my Josh Hawley video. Check out my my Eric Schmidt video. Anyway, back to Mr. Rubio.
So we all hope it works out.
Válaszoltok magyarul, ugye?
I can answer in Hungarian, right?
Okay.
Okay, Orban, remember, is responding to a question about China and oh yeah, okay, so that's why we got that lined up like that.
Van egy tény,
There is a
amit
fact
minden nemzetközi kapcsolatunkban
that
figyelembe kell venni.
we must take into consideration in every international relationship of ours as an origo, and that is that we are members of NATO.
És ez azt jelenti, hogy a biztonsági kérdés
The members of NATO, so this means what?
And that is that we are members of NATO.
És ez azt jelenti, hogy a biztonsági kérdések területében ez kijelöli a másokkal való együttműködés határait. És Magyarország biztonsági kérdésekben csak NATO tagállamokkal működik együtt. Ami azon túl van, vagyis kereskedelem, ott pedig annak vagyunk hívva, hogy minél több mindenkivel működjünk együtt. Ha pedig a mi együttműködésünk valakinek nem tetszik, bármely partnerünknek, majd szól.
Okay, so it sounded to me it's really difficult probably for you to hear what's going on. I'm not sure how to filter it out to where we can hear the interpreter better than we can hear Viktor. But it sounds to me like Viktor is trying to say that his alliance, that his first allegiance is with NATO, not with China. But it's really kind of convoluted. His answer in that respect isn't very clear, but that wasn't what actually caught my attention. So let's go ahead and move forward.
Disliked by them, they will indicate that to us, and if they do so, we shall discuss the matter. I have been working together with Americans for over 30 years now.
Az öreg idős Bush elnök volt az első, akivel találkoztam.
Okay, so Viktor Orban just said that he's been working with Americans for over 30 years. And he mentioned Bush 1. He mentioned Bush Sr., Prescott's son. And I just want to remind you, let's see, here it is, time of troubles. Yeah. George H.W. Bush was the 11th director of the Central Intelligence Agency. And his tour of duty was in the 70s. Let's see, he stepped in, I believe it was, on January 30th of 1976. George H.W. Bush was sworn in as the director of intelligence. And then, of course, he stepped down after that to become Reagan's VP. And what's really interesting is that Operation Condor was running from 75 to 83. So Operation Condor had already started before HW had become director of the CIA. But it also overlaps with the time that there was that Iran hostage crisis going on, where Americans were trapped in the Tehran embassy for 444 days towards the end and that last portion of the Carter administration. Anyway, so yeah, this has been a big long push for these cats. Let's see if we can go ahead and finish this. Got about 2 minutes left, but that's basically really what I wanted to address. To be completely honest, again, all the links will be down below, so you'll be able to go and check things out for yourself, and we'll completely read those entire articles. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for checking out this video. That's my response to Secretary of State Marco Rubio and this Viktor Orban character. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Try to get the rest that you really need and try to get those fluids.